From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, including Revolution Radio digitally. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Self-experimenter and field researcher of ancient technologies and lost history, Jared Murphy has traveled the world searching for evidence of advanced ancestors and high technology. We are getting into the strange and weird tonight as Jared has a brand new book out called It's Not Aliens, It's Us. And it can only be found online at Amazon, which we highly suggest you do, and go check out. Yeah, we're going deep into the ancient side. What did our ancestors know? Were there really aliens hanging out here? Or did they do it themselves and we just lost the technology? Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Jared Murphy, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time, man. How are you?
Oh, great. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, we're very glad to have you on, my friend, because, you know, this is a topic that we don't get into, and your theories that you've been able to figure out recently are absolutely phenomenal when it comes to this. But first, let's learn a little bit about you. What got you hot to trot on this topic of going down the whole alien agenda?
Yeah, it's, I think, like, I will date myself and say I'm the child of the 70s, and when you start... when you get Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark right away, it's like, well, okay, can't go to space. It looks really great. I think I'm going to dig up mummies and find the Lost Ark. And then from there, it just, I went down the road of learning a lot about history. But then I thought, it would be great. Maybe write a fictional story, just knowing what's out there, like the Paracas mummies in Peru. They're just really old. And I thought, well, you got some of the most naturally preserved humans on Earth at 9,000 years. A lot of genetic technology that says we can store memories in our genetic code, which we've proved out in the last 7 years. And I thought, well, it would be great to write a fictional story. And I thought, well, that's what I'll do. But truth is always stranger than fiction. And you start looking for components to build a story. And instead you find out that there's biochar engineered soil all over the earth where there's only supposed to be nomadic people. And it just sent me down 3 years of research that got us to where this book is.
Did you believe in aliens before all of this?
I think I grew up with that same exposure. So yeah, I think, the idea that we're alone in the universe, I mean, the probability of it's so miraculously small that there isn't other life.
As you go down this path and you start learning a little bit more about what you have, and you've traveled all over the world, looking for your own answers, what were you hoping to find in yourself, that is?
To be honest, I really didn't want to find what I found. There are points where, it's almost like the movie moment where you go, oh my God, I think we really did this to ourselves. We really are a fallen, destroyed, whether it was natural or some other disaster. When you look at the commonalities of the ruins it's everywhere across the earth, and you look at the commonalities of the structural components, construction components, you can't have as many out of place, out of time artifacts and not say, well, boy, if you add up everything you're really looking at, it looks like it's a laptop. Well, if it's a laptop, it's a laptop. It's not a mirror or a necklace or something to slaughter goats on. It's a ancient high piece of technology. And in looking at it, there's so many structures on Earth. And I think the naivety of I think it's not that we're naive. I think it's just that you look at some of the structures on Earth and we go, okay, well, how else could we have built this unless somebody who had an advanced crane? And well, we know what we would use to lift this 1,000-ton block, and we know what we would have to do to move it, 400 miles or 300 miles, and up and down high, low oxygen terrain in some cases, like in South America, or just long distances from like Baalbek, Lebanon, through to Egypt. And we think, well, obviously the jump isn't to say that there was a lost period of human history, despite post-flood histories from the Greeks to the Egyptians and Eastern cultures that point out that, well, there were people here before. But the easier assumption is, well, obviously aliens came. Aliens came and helped us build really big blocks and move really big things, because otherwise we wouldn't have any time to hunt or gather. And why else wouldn't we work with the biggest stones on Earth if, and again, that's just one example, one component. And why would we make them fit so well together or whatever? So the jump to aliens, I think, from going from Victorian England and the Middle Ages through our jumps in technology to get to where we are in a short 100 years with iPads and Androids and where we are with technology, I think it was an easy assumption for people with horse and buggy to go, well, we progressed systematically from loincloth to where we are now. And the explanations today, these period explanations of, well, aliens came and interceded, and we have this split in this DNA. Well, it couldn't have happened unless somebody came and did it, because, well, the only other explanation is we did it. And the only other explanation would be that we were at a higher level of technology than we are now. And it has taken, I think, to where we are now to have the clarity in some of these technologies to look and say, okay, at a certain height, all of this is connected. All of this relates. It's sometimes what's seen as a superhuman ability to the technology of we have an earthquake cloaking wall. And how is that possible? Unless we understood waves and frequencies. And how can we have these genetic differences in the Paracas skulls that Brian Forster did all that work on, just came out with that a year ago, that there's 6 genetic markers that aren't known to humans. These people are in Peru, and they are elongated skulls, and they're born that way. They have one suture line. Their foramen magnum where their vascular system that enters their skull is completely different than the human that we know of with a regular skull. These are not people that tribally smash their heads to get an elongated skull. They only have one suture line on the skull. They have a spinal column that enters in a different location, and they're from Crimea. And this isn't on the cover of Smithsonian. It's not talked about. I know it runs in circles now on the web and with other alternative researchers, but you either have to say, okay, well, this technology is something that, they crashed. They just came here, and clearly this is a little segment of some alien population, maybe. I mean, in speculation. So how do we come back and say, well, we have that possibility that aliens exist somewhere, someplace, that they may have come here at some point, at some time, or we could say the whole human race is, or we can also say that in our unknown history, based on the evidence that's being found that we can, what we're going to keep dissecting and looking into right now, even, is that a very, very advanced level of understanding happened at one point or multiple points for humanity. And here we are with these pieces, and they're so confounding, we label them as out of place, out of time, or some other traveler must have affected this one. Look at this one structure at this one location. We couldn't have gotten it. I mean, obviously the most famous is the Great Pyramid. We like to say, well, it's 1/60th of a second off of north by south by south, because they really, 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 really wanted to get the shadow right at noon. I mean, what are we doing here? It's the complexities and the exact placements are so absurd on so many structures that you have to stop at some point and say, okay, all of this is related to technology that may have needed exact placing, exact placements, and exact coordinates, and whether it was for telecommunication or some other technology, those are further questions we get to table. But for now, it's possible that at any point, no one wants to not, when you see a flying saucer and there's too many respectable, intelligent, really insightful and discerning human beings that have too many sightings and too much to know about what's staring at, they're looking right at it and it's looking back at them, and they can identify the beings that they've seen. And so are they foreign to this planet, or are they our fellow humans? And after some disaster, have they reached this point where they have chosen to continue to develop genetic technology? Right now, we go in for nose jobs. These people, it continue to advance to a point where they may be shaping their bodies. Us, the human race, continued beyond elongated skulls, whether that was a progression or just a subsect. Were some of them small? Were some of them tall? Did they specialize their size and shapes for their tasks at hand? And here we are down this split history where you have survivors that were maybe on the planet, and you have flying saucers or what appears to be a UFO of some kind, and some could be military, and others could be this remnant human race that, whether by design or by choice, they run into us or choose to identify themselves. And again, there are too many people with too many eyewitness accounts to not say, look, I know what I saw. Well, you saw something that doesn't look like us, but the first thing we assume is, well, it's got to be from out of this world. The technology, how they appear. And we take it for granted that maybe we would always want to look human, the way we see ourselves today, when there are actual examples like the Paracas skulls that show we've never been standard. All of our mythologies, everything shows that we could have looked and been anything we could have either dreamt or had a nightmare about.
So as you look at yourself and the history that you have come to enjoy in learning about, how do you think it ties into ancient races, Egypt, ancient Greece, maybe Atlantis?
Yeah, I think we always have this, there's always that conversation about what does post-flood look like? And then we have these histories like the Anunnaki and the Sumerian cultures, and then we have the Greeks. And we like to look at, the Temple of Delphi, and we get often fascinated with, say, the Spartans and the oracles, and the idea that there's this ancient Greek gods that this entire culture is founded on what at the very foundational level at the Temple of Delphi, for instance, is polygonal construction. And then you have the dynastic Egyptians talking to Greek philosophers as they come and saying, you Greeks are very old. You don't know how, Eric von Daniken writes about this. And I was able to talk to him a couple times about it, that, the Greeks were told by the ancient Egyptians, well, we have a king's list that goes back 36,000 years. And you Greeks don't know how young you are now, but you are very old. And these are histories that were written, and in the dynastic Egyptians case and in the Greeks, both credit their lowest foundational structures, which on both sides of that Mediterranean have polygonal construction. And the nodules or the nodes that we don't know if they've been worn down, if they were part of a superstructure of like maybe a shear strength for like a metamaterial. But you have the dynastic Egyptians and the Greeks coming into an area where it's been priorly devastated by either a natural or an unnatural disaster. And they've adapted the ruins and the buildings they've found, and they've rebuilt them. And sometimes it can be seen in specific technologies. And in the case of, I've already mentioned the Paracas in Peru, you have a group of people who are genetically showing as coming from Crimea. And there's still further genetic research being done, but they look entirely different. And they're in South America. And then you have unknown, or in a Western world, moving to the Indus Valley civilizations and moving east to China and Japan, again, polygonal construction. And genetically, you have these it's very popular to talk Younger Dryas, this getting very well documented and grounded facts that we've had some massive disaster about 12,600 years ago. And you have these cultures and races all in this post-antediluvian time of readapting and moving into these, what we think of as epic societies in the last 5,000 years, Raiders of the Lost Ark and, ancient Egypt and the Greeks moving into building these temples. But were they really building them entirely from scratch, or were they mimicking an earlier foundational structure? And you can see the similarities in what's in the ground. And I think when we look at all of it at this post-flood time, it's very romantic to get sucked into, especially in the Western world, with Sumer and the Sumerians and the Anunnaki. And, we have this epic story of Gilgamesh, and it flows into the Bible, and these Anunnaki are here for gold, and they're from planet Nibiru, and there's astrological evidence. There's some very serious, credible research that says that, is there a chance that we're in a binary star system with possibly another sun? Because most planetary life systems that we've identified throughout the galaxy/universe that we can tell could hold life, generally they're binary. They have two stars. And we do a lot of this through radio frequency. And so, people see a picture of a planet, and it's not like we took a snapshot of a planet. We're doing this through radio wave interpretation and saying, well, based on this size and mass and what we're reading, it's this size and mass of a planet or a star or an asteroid or et cetera. And so the idea that this post-flood romanticized idea of, well, we have to look exactly at this myth or this religion of Sumer and say, well, what we get stuck with is, well, look, see here, there's these aliens, and the short story is they enslaved humankind. They adapted them to be slaves, and they needed gold to save their planet. And there's this long history of this mythology. And what we do in research oftentimes is, I think it ties into other, paleoanthropological and archaeological research with just finding facts in the ground. Look for the things you're trying to find, and you find them. And I think it happens even in alternative research, which is to just not accept the face value of, not saying that there is an evolution, but when we look at this then at a flood story and include the Anunnaki as a big center for where we maybe get our alien stories from, is that, well, clearly they came here, they needed gold, and then we go out and search and we find this evidence and we reinforce this theory. Okay, well, could it be, it's aliens, and they changed our genes and they made us different, and see, we're different now. But you have to ignore what were we like pre-antediluvian, pre-flood. How advanced were we to build the structures we built, and why were the Paracas so different? Not just as their example, but why are there other examples of very interesting points within our DNA? And cultural differences aside, these genetic markers are very curious on a lot of different, whether you're from Eurasia or Asia or the Western hemispheres, or what we're discovering, like in Guatemala with the LiDAR scans that to quote the archaeologists from Tikal, with 40,000 structures found that were featured in National Geographic, we've grossly underestimated South American populations, and they've only done 800 square miles of a 5,000 square mile study, and that's just Guatemala. So it appears that we have a history that's so large and big that you can't just take a post-antediluvian one story, or the stories of the Egyptian gods or the stories of the Greek gods, and say, well, there's obviously advanced out of place, out of time artifacts, and well, here's a mythology again, written in a post-flood culture, though, which is recent in the destroyed times, that in the fallen post-apocalyptic whatever we went through priorly, that, there's this entire mythology around this other planet and they needed gold, but we know a lot more about nanotechnology now. We know a lot more about how to actually, we're going to create quantum computing. I mean, we've done it. It's going to be in our hands sooner than it took to go from the Apple to our iPads. And you have to consider then that, okay, well, if you can control nanobots that can go into a single cell and manipulate a single strand of DNA, if you're an interdimensional space traveling alien, can put any two atoms together to form or create anything you want. You don't need to go anywhere and mine gold. You don't need to. Now, if you came from another planet and there was just 10 of you and you crashed and your nano building machine is now broken, perhaps you would need to jumpstart it with some gold. But we have to, this is a small example of our technology has caught up for us to be able to discern that if you are traveling great distances in space, you have to have control of subatomic particles. If you can build in a 3D printer anything you can dream of or think of, you don't need to travel to another planet to obtain gold. So we can start breaking down these post-flood myths and start appreciating them for the cultures that developed these mythologies, whether it's the Greeks, whether it's Sumer, or whether it's the Indus Valley cultures, which we're only, in a Western standpoint, starting to understand more, and that they are, again, another place where they're super organized, perfectly laid out streets, north by north, south by south, all to the cardinal points, and very well laid out. But these people were just getting to understand them in the Western side, and it's great to appreciate anybody who creates 1,000 years of history. We should appreciate that. But what are we trying to get to? Why are we fighting? Why are we walking around? And I think I have to give Graham Hancock credit for the phrase of "we're a species with amnesia." I think it's a great way to really look at it. Why do we know there's just something that's missing, and that's just right out of our tips of our tongue? And this is one of those cases where if we drop and stop relating to our history from our post-flood mythologies and just look at the facts of what we're finding genetically. Yeah.
I'm going to get you to hold on right there, Jared, because we're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Jared Murphy is our guest tonight. His latest book, It's Not Aliens, Worse, It's Us, Discovering Our Lost History. Next, let's go back in time with Jared Murphy on Spaced Out Radio.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you'd know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for something new to push your limits? Look Beyond the Spectrum, a new docuseries featuring some of the best researchers in the world when it comes to everything from UFOs, government cover-ups, and Bigfoot in the forest. Truth seekers like Steve Bassett, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Richard Dolan, as well as others all chip in to bring their knowledge to you. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon as well as Tubi TV. Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including Rockin' Out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight we are talking with author Jared Murphy. He's got a brand new book out that I think you should check out. It's not aliens, worse, it's us. And we're going back in time right now to try and figure out what the heck is going on. Jared, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. That's kind of what we do around here. You know, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I want to ask you, in the previous hour, you mentioned that there was a big changeover about 12,000 years ago. What do you think happened?
Oh, it's interesting. I think, the couple theories currently are, well, obviously Greenland, we find that huge crater in Greenland, 19-mile diameter, possibly 700 megaton bomb equivalent, taking out Greenland, and then there's the general theory that because there's so many clear worldwide flood stories that there was a flood that affected the world, and is it sourced from an impact, or was it the ending due to is there possibly the sun flare theory, the idea of sun plasma, that there was some solar flare that affected the planet. It was so great that it either burned directly and the basically ice shelves melted. I mean, there's a few different theories that what caused this sudden rise in sea level, and I think there's a couple interesting points about this. One is why, to directly answer the question, what if it is that there was already a prior event and that whatever happened 12,600 or so, it either gets rounded up to 13 or rounded down to 12, but either way, approximately 12,600 years ago, we have this worldwide disaster. Is it really an aftershock of a prior event, and it's the remnants of that event from maybe 50 or 80 or 100,000 years ago, or was it a new event? And part of the problem with answering the question is Egypt. I think a lot of great points have been made by a lot of great researchers that you take Tanis, the former capital of Egypt, and it shows a lot of there's a lot of locations around the world that show signs of vitrification of stone that has been irregularly heated, and then it cools off and it becomes brittle. It doesn't have the personality of the stone as it should have, and it becomes either flaky, brittle. It's clear that depending on the location on Earth, that if there had been an impact or a solar flare with an extreme amount of plasma, that it would have been really easy to maybe possibly create enough heat to have vitrified and obliterated whole cities, including Tanis and other locations, whether in Greece, Egypt, or South America, wherever. Part of the problem with proving that part out is, well, we just haven't created access to all the incredible sites that we're finding just with LIDAR and the other scanning methods. So we don't have enough data sets to say, okay, well, it's clear that this stone was vitrified, but was it weaponized? Was it a actual impact from an asteroid? Was it massive, like in Greenland? Was it this 700 megaton explosion with a wall of fire, and it just vitrified and obliterated, 1,000-ton statues and whole cities and just evaporated people? Or was it a weaponized incident of a clash between cultures? And then, a lot of water rose really quickly. And so there's a theory of, would an impact also affect plates? Our theoretical tectonic shifting. Did some things go up, some things go down? Did also a wall of water? How did we end up with Lake Titicaca in the Andes? How did we end up with a lake, one of the highest lakes on Earth at 12,000 feet-ish, with seahorses? Was it at one point lower and ocean level, or what we would have identified, or was it higher? And part of answering this question goes into that city that's off of the coast of Cuba, and I do mention it in my book. A couple people were given permission by the Cuban government approximately 14 years ago to look for Spanish galleons, and they see an anomaly, and they find what very much appears to be a city off the coast of Cuba, 2,300 feet deep. And this ties into what happened 12,600 years ago, because even 8,000 years ago, you have Doggerland or whatever you want to, it's well established in mainstream archaeology or geology that from Scotland all the way to France was one continent. You have rivers and valleys that have just disappeared. What we identify as Ireland, Scotland, and England and France was one area. Even you can see maps of this. It's very difficult to find this, but there are maps of this even to 8,000 years ago. So we're talking very much past this massive disaster. And there's a lot of evidence saying North Africa, even to 5,000 BC, was a tropical paradise, the whole northern section, that it became arid only in the last 4,500 to 4,900 years. So backing up to this city off of the coast of Cuba, it's at 2,300 feet or 1,700 meters deep. And irrelevant to plate tectonics, we know enough about our geology to say this city could have only been above water 50,000 years ago. So what did the coastlines look like 50,000 years ago, pre-flood 12,600 years ago? Where the heck was our planet at 50,000? And here's the thing. It's not like when you look at, you can very quickly do a search, sunken city off the coast of Cuba, and you'll see the picture of it. The best that I can tell you for current information is National Geographic bought the rights to the story, and nothing's been done with it for 14 years. And you don't even have to dig for a conspiracy on this one. It's pretty exciting. It's not easy to find and then try to video a city at 2,300 feet deep. There's a lot of logistical issues, but you would think that a city like this would become front and center news when it can't be the only one. So if you try digging and finding obvious maps, it took me 2 years with a cartographer and an illustrator, brilliant illustrator, to come up with what did the world look like at 50,000 years ago. And it's not like they dusted off their hands and went, well, we're ready for the next disaster, and then this city got sunk. The last time it was above ground is approximately 50,000 years ago. So how long was it established prior to that? And then what does the global footprint look like? If you look at a map now, which I've put it throughout my book, of what's our coastlines, what is the world we're living in, where are people living on the beach? If your beach was Las Vegas, Nevada, and your East Coast beach in the United States was Ohio, and mid through the Carolinas and Tennessee and Kentucky, and there was no Florida, you would have a very different story to tell in 50,000 years if there was no New York and no LA and no Miami. And it would look very different, at least in the United States. So when you have I had to go back further from this last disaster and go, okay, where were we as a culture, as humanity goes? Like, we know this city's there. There are pictures of this city there. It was found. It was written about. There are stories. It's 14 years ago. This is old news. So how many other cities, if we're looking for a true timeline to humanity, we not only have to say, well, there's this, the city of Alexandria. Well, we know the Egyptians. We know the Greeks had cities a few hundred, they're a few hundred feet deep now. No, we're talking, where did Doggerland go? Where did all these rivers and valleys that represented King Arthur, Merlin, and magic from from the edge of Scotland to all the way to France? This geology looked entirely different and was still very much there 8,000 years ago. Yet over 50,000 years ago, the Mediterranean was basically a lake. The Caribbean was basically a lake. And again, you have indigenous societies in that Cuban area, and their flood myth from 12,600 years ago, at least we think it's that disaster in tying in ancient cultures around the world. They have a story that one day the land flooded and they were left with islands and lots of fish. It's a very positive spin on having a disaster take out the known world for these indigenous people in this particular area in South America, or in the Central American region, that you can't not just account for this one city off of Cuba. You now have to look at New Zealandia off of Australia, where that was a continent. It was many, many times larger than what is left now of this little sliver of New Zealand. Again, this is established, known information about where there's an agreement that New Zealandia was a above water area, and so was most of Indonesia, connected with pretty much you could walk to Australia. And all these coastlines looked very differently. And so if we start saying, okay, we have, again, a very skewed snapshot of our history, and we keep pressing this story that we've grown up with, that, well, the coastlines we're looking at right now is basically where they were for all of either advanced ancient technology or loinclothers and bark eaters, that we have a coastline snapshot of our history, but we don't. And you have a nail in a coffin, a massive white elephant in a room with just this one city off of Cuba at its depth, showing that it had to have been established, which means, what are we doing with history 100,000 years ago? And are we looking in those places? Are we in those portions of the ocean? Are we looking at the sands? For years, it's been said over 90% of Egypt is in the sand. Well, we know that from Sarah Park, the Global Explorer program. Sarah Parkak did the Global Explorer. She won the TED Talk a few years ago for using satellites to image sand. She found pyramids that Egyptologists didn't want to acknowledge. She found whole cityscapes. I mean, she won the TED Prize for it. And it's because the majority of what we need to look at to tell our true story is either buried in sand, buried in areas we said were nomadic, or under the water in an area that is so significantly further away. We're telling ourselves the story of, for say, Tanis and this vitrification. And was it this disaster 12,600 years ago, or was there something further back? Is the actual timeline for an advanced human culture somewhere between 50 and 100,000 years ago? And how big was this global culture? Because one of the first things that I stumbled on was engineered soil. And when you have engineered soil, and what that is it's not a matter of there was a forest fire and then some dinosaurs died and they created compost and then there's a lot of black earth. There is something called in South America and Latin America, it's called terra preta. It's Portuguese. And
right.
What they found was that what was that?
No, I just said right. I was listening in. Just wanted to make you know I was still here.
I'm so sorry. I should stop talking, right? At this point, I should How would I catch your breath?
I did want to ask a quick question. What about off the coast of Bimini, where they believe that might have been where Atlantis was, and there is these stone roads that are underneath the ocean that seem pretty darn interesting.
Well, they pretty much walk right. And I think that when you look at the timeline, the beauty of us in our modern time is, and in even my lifetime, I think that's the beauty of this story. Our imagination of what we started with is we're told of this city, this one advanced city, and we can get our heads around that. It was a great story. It's part of this. It's part of the Greeks. It's part of our modern mythology of this idea of this one advanced city. But I think it's being well established with all these great researchers that the technology on every continent is showing a level of sophistication that is so far beyond our current comprehension and or abilities to even. We look at single blocks and stones and say we have a couple cranes that can lift these, and we can lift them straight up and down, and we can only do it a few feet. And these people are cutting and moving with impunity 100,000, 800 ton, and they're not just cutting stones, they're shaping them and melting them and agitating them in place where they're touching on every side. And Atlantis is this idea, this crowning capstone on this concept that, it was just this one group of, is it possible that a highly ancient advanced society ended up bunkering down? And was it 100? Was it 50? Did they survive for a few days? Did they survive this massive natural disaster? And then did they come out and then they're like, well, we rebuilt one city. And this Bimini Road and these other underwater especially with that Cuban pyramid structure city where it is. And again, the Guatemalan LiDAR scans are just one place where we're establishing that many, many more millions of people lived in some post-antediluvian, post-disaster. They were able to walk in to super highways and roads and build and add on to pre-existing societies, which include that road that's underwater there. And it absolutely, I think actually Jimmy from Bright Insight, I do not know him personally, but I think he nailed it when he did, and I know Brian Forster was interested in it too, is that I think Bright Insight nailed it when he pointed out the maps of the known world that the Greeks knew and the Eye of Africa and the rings of the Eye of Africa. And even if you account for plate shifting and everything else, it's like, well, the reason Eye of Africa was ruled out as Atlantis was because of its height. And of course, the taboo is, and Michael Cramo of Forbidden Archaeology points this out too, if you, God forbid, you mention the word Atlantis and people don't want to touch you or talk to you or take you seriously as a researcher, but the idea that Atlantis is really a representative statement of a lost ancient high technology society, whether single or global in unity or global and separate, like we look at modern countries now. There was a global society because anyone who's ever done construction or engineering, you cannot look at the structures that are on every planet, on every part of the planet, and not say that these are not similar. They're almost identical, if not identical, on every continent. So at some point in our post-flood cultures, do we know about this city called Atlantis? Yeah, and we know about it through a lot of secondhand story through the Greeks, but the Eye of Africa and the map of the known world for the Greeks, from what it looks like, I guess, it's an interesting thing that got romanticized for me as a kid, and I do think the Eye of Africa fits the description, and based on what's being found there even already, despite it being in a very high area conflict zone and very little is studied about it because of its location and the danger in getting there. I think that's what that was. But the Bimini Road, the city off of Cuba, the stuff being found everywhere else, even off of Japan. And of course, I mean, it was Graham Hancock digging off of the coast of India in the 90s in those documentaries where you have stories in India about, well, everyone here who lives in this part of the coast is, well, we're here because there was a flood and Well, guess what? 30, 50,000 years ago, they did live 100 miles the other direction, and there's superstructures there. And yeah, the currents are bad. Underwater is not glorious. It's highly dangerous work. And unfortunately, all of our best archaeological evidence is laying at the bottom of some really badass oceans with needing of some really badass people to go dig it up. Well, sink it up, float it up. I don't know.
We got about 3 minutes here before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. Jared Murphy is our guest tonight. When you talk advanced society going back 12,000 years ago, what kind of society are you talking about? I mean, for all we know, creating fire was high advancement back then.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like on one hand, it's you have post-flood surviving tribes and cultures that it looks like the dynastic Egyptians were that group. They came into a destroyed city, metropolis area, and they mimicked what was there. And then advanced is looking at the very structures these cultures occupied, just like the Incans said to the Spaniards, who built this? And they said the gods built this. And you can't, again, with any construction or engineering background, you can't look at a structure with 50, 80,000 ton polygonal, which means very intricately cut. Everyone walks up to these polygonal constructions, and one of the things they point out is you can't put a pin or you can't put a piece of paper between them. And studies have been done. These are structures that can withstand earthquakes. So we're talking about structures that have been engineered to intentionally mute and stop frequency, massive. Like you could stand in a building and not know there was a 9 Richter scale earthquake. And that is really highly advanced technology to understand where you are geographically on the earth, how deep and at what location an earthquake originates from, because it's based on tectonic plate shifting, that a culture was able to build the structure, which is likely a foundational structure, to a building that was able to withstand this. And the part that we can wait and talk about after the break is the foundations themselves. We're looking up or we're looking at the walls, but the foundations of these structures, including engineered soil, is the point. These people engineered the soil that they were using beyond what we can do today. That's just some of it.
So with that, as we got about 45 seconds to go here, with that, does that mean that, they had electronic advancements that we just don't know about or have been covered over by, years and years of dirt and sediment?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's both. We have there's plating technology. I think as society declined, there's plating technology on things that have been found from Sumer to the Middle East, where it's plated so thin, it's at a nanoscale that we can't match. Our phone technology and the digital equipment we're using doesn't use plating that thin. And they were using it to make pretty gold altars and stuff, and we don't know how to do it. That's just one example, and that's post-flood.
All right. Right there, we're going to cut you off because we got to go to break at the top of the hour. Learning more about this past technology. How advanced were societies way back when? Way back when. We're going to get into it with Jared Murphy. His book that we're chatting about tonight, all about aliens, man. What is that humming sound? I have no idea what that sound is. You got a train going on there? Oh, well.
Welcome,
That's okay.
Yes.
Hour 2, next.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. you'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We're bringing you something new to the documentary world. Beyond the Spectrum will take you on an historic tour of topics like no other: Sasquatch, UFOs, government secrecy, and more, keeping you on the edge of your seats through the eyes of legendary truth seekers like Steve Bassett, Richard Dolan, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and Jack Kasher. Head on over to Amazon Prime or Tubi TV and check us out. Please leave a comment for the filmmakers on their film's Amazon page.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together, we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining on in wherever you may be. Hope you're all sitting nice, cozy, and tight. We want to say welcome to every one of our terrestrial affiliates tuning us on in tonight, along with our digital side of Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Katzenjammer. Katzenjammer is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We got a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire and so much more. Tonight we are talking about ancient technologies with the author, Jared Murphy. His latest book, and I highly suggest you go on and get it because it is a good one. It's not aliens, worse. It's us. Scary times, man. Scary, scary times as we look forward to it. Jared, how's the train, man? How's the train?
Ron, you're just back in time for a new one, which now is almost done. It's almost gone.
Well, there you go. I can't hear it anymore. I can't hear it. That's good stuff, man. You know what? I rarely hear a train around here. Rarely, and I miss it. I also miss the fact that way up here, we rarely get airplanes flying over, like any type of aircraft.
Huh.
Haven't even seen a good UFO recently, man. But anyways, let's get to ancient technology here, because right before the break, we were talking about how you believe past civilizations going back 14,000 years ago, there was a lot of advancement that was out there. What leads you to believe that they had technologies? Because, archaeologically speaking, we haven't found a lot of those or what they had.
Well, it's funny because we look up, and like I said, the polygonal construction is significant. So what we're talking about is whether you're in Tiwanaku or Ollantaytambo or Egypt, the Great Pyramid itself, Baalbek, Lebanon, the Emperor's Palace in Japan to Cambodia. polygonal construction and keystone cuts, which have been featured from Ancient Aliens to just every researcher at it right now, is pointing out that you have these, whether they're a few tons or whether they're 1,000 tons or 1,200 tons, or there's a location in Siberia that's showing to be over 3,000 tons, you have these blocks that can fit together with not even a piece of paper that go between them. And it's not just that they're tightly, I've done historical remodeling for 20 years, and it's one thing to cut two boards together and have them fit really tight on the front, and you go, well, that looks really nicely finished, and the boards seem to come together. But then on the backside, you'll look and you'll see that, well, the one cut was a little more than 45, or the blade took just a little too much off. But we're talking about the hardest stones on Earth at each layer of the society that we're crediting to these constructions, whether it's the Inca or whether it's in Cambodia or in Egypt. We're crediting these dynastic, post-antediluvian peoples with building these structures of the hardest stones on Earth, with frequently hundreds or thousands or many, feet above sea level, distances from where they were quarried to where they were placed. And in fitting them together, they don't just fit on the front, they fit on every side in every way, and in areas where they're so old that they've weathered away those joineries. When they were together, or when they are together, they mute earthquakes because they are set together with no mortar. They fit it's like maybe like putting your arm or your knee to your thigh, where your skin just folds together perfectly. These stones are fit together in a way that not one mason in 1,000 years would waste the time. They cut square blocks, they stack them. If they don't fit, you add mortar. This is not how these are constructed. And it would be fancy and interesting if they just built it really close and tight, and they just really were bored, and they were all attention. They just had OCD, and they were just polishing and taking off every 800-ton stone that has, maybe sometimes they're not just four-sided. They're some of them are 8 or 10. They're just so intricately cut and pinned together in a way that causes them to just mute, whether it be an earthquake or now getting into the foundational structure, which I never wanted to look into ancient megalithic history. I got to be honest with you. I wanted to find mummies. Like I said at the beginning, I wanted to find the lost Ark of the Covenant. I wanted to be Indiana Jones. I didn't want to talk and find out that there's engineered soil from Canada to Siberia called Chernozems, and in Latin America and in Africa and in Australia, there is terra preta, and it's soil that isn't not only the best for growing food, but it's also good for filtering carbon dioxide. It's also good for filtering heavy metals and pesticides or fertilizers. And we're talking engineered soil that has to be created. And it's, again, in areas that we're saying there was just nomadic people. And then we have to account for North Africa being a giant desert and a number of other deserts around the world that may not have been deserts when this soil appears up everywhere. We're talking about highly nutrient-rich soil that has been looked at by soil scientists for 100 years, and we cannot recreate. We have modern biochars that we create from either a food or an organic product. We have mimics, but the ancient soils that in some locations are 15, 20 feet thick and go on for many, many, many square kilometers or miles, depending on where you're from. And we don't know how to recreate it. So foundationally, we have to start and say, where's our technology that we're looking at? Because we're frequently looking up or for the iPad or the laptop. And what we're not looking at is submicron, boring as hell. You need a microscope and a bunch of other electroscopy, just really complex machines to look at dust and say, this is not a normal dust. This has been engineered and placed here by a people. And then we have not just the foundation under a building, we have this polygonal construction these keystone cuts in stones that aren't just stones. They're quartzites, they're basalts, they're highly complex stones that sure seems like there would be an energy or a communication or a wave and frequency component beyond the technology of earthquakes. So what else is there? And then we come to stone spheres. And starting in Costa Rica, there were some banana plantations that were opening up. And in the 1920s, they started finding stone spheres. What are we talking about? We're talking about giant stone balls, whether they are, some of them are the size of golf balls that they found. A lot of people don't know that. They think that there's just these giant couple ton, 4 ton, 10 ton. In Bosnia, they found a 64 ton one. They've been found in Finland and Sweden. They're found in Russia. They're found in the Arctic Circle. But these giant stone spheres, one of the theories was, well, volcanoes back in the day threw up a lot of material, hot material into the air, and they spun and spun and spun, and they magically created very smooth concretions. And that's what they called them. These weren't carved stone spheres. They were concretions. And the other thing is, it's pointed out that they're perfectly round. Well, some of them, and then it's pointed out, well, they're not all perfectly round. Well, if you start to understand frequencies and wave technology, and this is where it gets more and more interesting, we have nanoplating that we're seeing being done. Why would anyone need a nanoplate down to one layer, a gold-plated pitcher of something in Sumer, unless it's a descending technology? Why? Again, we're seeing the polygonal construction. Now here's these stone spheres that also relate to earthquake and muting control, because just in April of 2019, and they had already been, these group of researchers in France had already published on some other points that they couldn't help but notice that Greco-Roman amphitheaters, that the foundational footings were placed in such a way that if, again, hit by an earthquake, the structure of these buildings and these amphitheaters exactly dampen and mute earthquakes. But here we have these giant stone spheres of different shapes and sizes, not exactly perfectly round, and you won't believe it, but in the 40s, the first and only 2 people that looked at this, the lead researcher's last name, no joke, first and last name, Doris Stone, started in Costa Rica looking at these stone spheres, and they only looked at them for 4 years, and they were only recently protected as a World Heritage, as one of these World Heritage mystery things. But they were found all over Costa Rica. They were found in California. They're found in New Zealand. They're found in the Arctic Circle. They're found all over the earth. And what these researchers found in April of 2019, what they published on, was that in the role of nanophonics, in the role of metamaterials in megastructures for earthquake control, their interest is creating things that make tall buildings and everything safer, and you don't have to worry about your family being in some off the Richter scale earthquake, is that these stone spheres, what they experimented with were concrete about a meter by meter by meter. And what they did was they placed them at various levels in the earth, and they found that they act as wave resignators. So they could do 2 things. They could do a lot of things. One, they could mute an incoming wave, we're just going over this quick, or they could maybe enhance a different frequency or wave. But what they found was that if you place these spheres of various sizes and shapes and cuts, and they were using concrete, but the spheres that are found all over the earth are made out of different materials. And if you place them under city structures, not one single building, but whole infrastructures, that a series of stone balls would mute or cancel and save and keep safe a population that would be above it. And what they found was that you could use columns, trees, and soil, and you could change the density and the structure of the soil itself to, again, either mute or enhance the communication of a wave or frequency. And that was a side note, by the way, to back up for terra preta, is that there are electromagnetic properties with terra preta that everyone goes, oh, isn't that neat or interesting? But it's not sexy like finding a mummy in a tomb. But what we have is, starting with the soil itself, starting with something that I don't think anyone saw coming, massive amounts of engineered soil all over the earth with stone balls and polygonal construction staring right at us, showing that these people knew what frequency and wave to tune every building they built with impunity of the size of the stone or the hardness of it, cutting it and shaping it and placing it. And now what would happen in 50,000 years with a building that had a plastic or glass or metal exterior? I mean, we have Model Ts in America that are melting away where they sit and have been at farms all over Minnesota, or old cars that have rusted away where there's not much left. What would happen in 50,000 years? What would be left other than the stone itself? So the part of the testament is the longevity of this stone, but what's missing is the eyes on the comprehension of the technology that would be related to muting on one layer of technology an earthquake. But then you're growing soil, you're creating soil that can grow the most nutrient-dense food on the planet. It's renewing itself, basically, and on top of it, it's filtering heavy metals and carbon dioxide. The missing component in a lot of the research, which I quote quite a bit of the research about it. You can go down this rabbit hole, but the idea that these structures were built on foundations that were just meant to stay level is a simplification of how deep are these structures. Like Ollantay Tambo, every now and then it'll be stopped and there's an 800-ton stone, this is in South America, and people will stop at these multi-layered stones and they'll say, look at the complexity or the size of the structure, but it's rarely pointed out that the structures are over 40 feet deep. It's almost never pointed out that the Great Pyramid of Egypt, that the Giza Plateau, first off, isn't just the Great Pyramid, which is, again, 8-sided. We're going back to frequency and wave technology. So is Menkaure. The end pyramids are 8-sided pyramids. What would an 8-sided structure look like? You don't draw that. Nobody talk. We develop develop the aeroplane. We fly over the Great Pyramid. It's the pictures taken that with the sun in the right direction, and you can Google and everyone can go look at this or Bing it or whatever you want to support. The reality is that 2 of the 3 pyramids that are there, and it's known that there was, like ancient architects points out, that there were drawings that there was a 4th pyramid, and there may have been more, but again, you have like in any remodel, any 100-year-old, now we're talking about a society that's been around 12,000 years. They're going to rob from Peter to pay Paul when it comes to building a structure. A structure may fall out of use. They may have changed it or destroyed it. But what they didn't do was change the foundation that these buildings are sitting on. And the reality is that when you look down, some of those blocks, like at Baalbek, they could be 1,200. Some of the estimates are over 1,100 tons or 1,200 tons. And again, it's really impressive. The weight's really big. It's not the weight. It's that when you look down at some points near the Great Pyramid, there are foundational stones, these, again, polygonal, cymatic, controlling waves and frequencies, cymatic polygonal stones that are foundational to this pyramid structures that have little tiny curves that almost tip around your finger. They're almost like feathered curves. So the blocks are all interlocking and they're touching on all sides. And we don't go look at a foundation and go, let's go figure out how much they pre-compacted the soil under the foundational wall. Let's look at what components they used. Because according to this paper from 2019, it could be nanostructures and material. So that's just the basis of the technology that we're talking about. We're saying we don't see, because we didn't even have the technology until recently to say, hey, this looks like a wave frequency resonator. Instead, it was a giant stone ball that people laughed at the idea that it was a concretion, because at different periods in Central America and in Bosnia and in some other locations, these stone spheres, including in New Zealand, they were dynamited or cracked open because they're hollow. It appears that they were cast. It appears that these are, it's just, the natural explanation for these as one example of a technology, or that they were made to be buried with a king, and again, if you pick up something 1,000 years after you use it, maybe you did bury it with somebody. Maybe it did have a ritualistic meaning that was very important. In 1,000 years, you and I can go do yoga at Chernobyl. It's still Chernobyl, but you can feel real tingly about doing yoga in it in 1,000 years, but it's not the original purpose.
I got a question for you from Red in our chat room, who is asking, if this is all the case with the stones and the soil and everything, what do you think happened to builders like those of Stonehenge? Where did they go? Or is it a portal of some sort?
Oh, I love that because, again, you get fascinated. Stonehenge is really popular. It's a super fun one to look at. There's a Stonehenge, though, in Libya. And there's some others in eastern Ukraine, and they are huge, and they are bigger. And when we look at Stonehenge, I want to point that out because, again, I think as a Western Hemisphere person, we are so drawn to Western stories. Something happened in the East, but it wasn't central to us, or something happened in South America, but it came later. But that's not what we're seeing. And so with Stonehenge, you have a structure that you have to, this is a fun one. Go to the library, look online, do everything you can to find the oldest sketches and images of Stonehenge. Find what modern people found before modern archaeologists in the last 100 years rebuilt Stonehenge to look like what they wanted Stonehenge to look like. And you're about to all get another train, so I apologize.
Excellent.
So what? Right now,
hold on. You got to at least put your hand out, try and get the conductor to blow his horn for us.
Actually, I think they can. I might be able to catch the next one. I can go out there for you.
We're going to have to try this. We are totally going to have to try this next time.
I will. But yeah, the Stonehenge thing. What's interesting first about that? There's so many great points to make on this because part of it is about looking at it and saying, okay, well, this is what Stonehenge looked like. Well, no, this is what some archaeologists in the last 100 years said. This is what Stonehenge looks like, and this is how we're going to rebuild it, and this is how we're going to repair it. And people get interested in it, and then they notice like there was a concrete repair on one of the stones, and then there's aerials now, LiDAR, that's showing that there's other henges around Stonehenge itself. Stonehenge is my perfect example of a 1,000-year-old Chernobyl. It's megalithic in its building. It has megalithic notching. It has extreme weathering that it shows that that the rounding of its corners of the blocks that were used show an antiquity that goes so beyond what we look at that structure and say, well, the mystical druids and what happened last couple thousand. Again, it's a perfect example of it was a sacred place for a couple thousand years to a different group of people, and in that time frame, or in the last 10,000 years, are hunter-gatherers, because you have to completely ignore Göbekli Tepe and everything that, and by the way, there's like 6 tepes, and we've only dug up 5% of them. So here we are with Stonehenge, something that we think has been well researched and established, and there is LiDAR that shows that there's not only other henges, but there are stones that are original to Stonehenge that were not placed back in place. And of those, like the standing stones, we call them standing stones, like in Carnac in France. There are enough related large megalithic stones that were left, I think, from these polygonal constructions from what was once a much more ancient society that just got repurposed. And so for Stonehenge to be on, when people start talking ley lines and energies and our modern interpretations of that, is Stonehenge. Yeah, Stonehenge is in that. Stonehenge is part of that. But
all right, I'm going to get you to hold on to that thought. We'll come back with Stonehenge with author Jared Murphy next on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, Use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose beard oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a Space Traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Looking for something new to push your limits? Look Beyond the Spectrum, a new docuseries featuring some of the best researchers in the world when it comes to everything from UFOs, government cover-ups, and Bigfoot in the forest. Truth seekers like Steve Bassett, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Richard Dolan, as well as others all chip in to bring their knowledge to you. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon as well as Tubi TV. Tell us what you think on our Amazon page. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you spending your time with us. Also want to remind you that if you want to check out our free archives, you can do so at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including Rockin' Out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight we are talking a little bit of ancient aliens, ancient technology. Where did we come from? Where did we go? Where did we come from? Cotton-Eyed Joe. Jared Murphy is our guest tonight. He's got a great book out. You can find it on Amazon or Google called It's Not Aliens, Worse, It's Us, Discovering Our Lost History. Jared, welcome back to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, really. Truly
Not
great.
a problem. Not a problem. You know, right before the break, you were talking about Stonehenge and what you believe happened there. What do you think is going on there?
Yeah, it's a great example of something we've all been able to look at and focus on. And what's happened with Stonehenge, I think, is a good representation of the way we've been looking at our interpretation of history. And one, it's been proven very recently in the last couple, definitely in the last 2.5 years, which is really, really current, to show that there are other henges, other circles that are dating or predating Stonehenge in that area. They're larger, they're as big. I pointed out there's one in Libya, but going to Libya is a hard thing to do. And again, they have a henge, a very, very big one, very complex one. There's some in Ukraine and Eastern Europe, and they're dating to the same periods. And I know everyone's very excited about Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, and there's not just one tepe. There's at least 6 that have been looked at for about 40 years, and they have giant stone megalithic pillars with, again, kind of rubble built up between them, but we're not sure because we've only dug up 5%. And at Stonehenge, we have a site that's been interpreted and then reinterpreted, and in the last 100 years, it's been rebuilt to what they thought, well, this is what it must have looked like, or these stones fit together and they work. And so what we have is, a modern archaeological interpretation of what Stonehenge should look like. And they pieced it back together. And then what we've done, particularly with the way we communicate now between television and radio and stories, we've been able to create and build a modern, almost new mythology or anthropology of it by telling new stories about, well, we have this impression, this is what Stonehenge looked like 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. We've taken this modern, and again, I'm talking about the last 100 years or from post 1750, 80s ish, that we have this henge that has been rebuilt because everyone scratched their heads and really came up with this. Yeah, this is very much what Stonehenge looked like. But there's, again, the materials that are left are just the stones, and of those, some of them show antiquity that is not weathering that would have happened over the time frame that it's been given. And with the other henges that have been found by Stonehenge, and again, the stones aren't there, the footings are, and therefore probably the foundational packing materials are. And the questions have to be, in reference to an ancient, lost, high technology society, are these structures, are these materials of what you're calling Stonehenge, are they materials that are left over or moved from the other henges that had fallen down, which again are possibly remnants of an ancient high technology society? Or are these things that are possibly from a mimic culture? That's the other part. It's like the dynastic Egyptians or the Greeks. Are these strictly from a society that has seen the pieces of the other henges or Stonehenge, and in the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 years, did they stack them back up and have, again, we have this legit, beautiful Neolithic nomadic history of, and then right up through the Druids and Christianity, we have this history of Stonehenge that is super mysterious, super interesting. King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. There's so many interesting histories that we place on Stonehenge and say, okay, well, here's what it must have been. And then the idea directly, is it an energy center that's a portal or a communication center? Just like the Nazca lines, again, that it's kind of the same thing where you have a mimic culture coming along and placing butterflies and figures on top of non-variation 25-kilometer long lines. And there's not just Nazca lines in Peru. The Nazca lines, if some people aren't familiar, these are super long straight lines that are in Earth that is the most arid. Not even Antarctica is as arid as this due to its cold. There's less than a half inch of rain. You can scratch the dirt where the Nazca lines are, and it will literally be there for tens of thousands of years. It will never go away. And what's never talked about in reference to high technology, and Eric von Daniken has to get the credit for this, is that there is drainage pipes that are actually, there's piping systems that go into the Andes, but there are, if there was enough rain for the Nazca lines to be affected, there's drains. And that's not a subject people want to talk about. Or why are the Nazca lines themselves have traces of arsenic? And we're not just talking from acid rain or over thousands of years. We're talking that these are lines that look like geocircuits. So in reference to Stonehenge, is this entire system that was built, when you look at a global map, when you look at where the coastlines would have been 50 or 60 or 80,000 years ago, when you look at where the Bimini Road would have been a road, and Indonesia would have had the same thing above water, and the Jakarta Pyramid was in full bloom, and all the tepes in Turkey were not stacked with rubble in between the megalithic posts. What are we looking at for? What are we doing?
You got the police coming for you there, or some sort of alien ship?
Well, I'd like to credit it to that, but I'm going to give it to the fan that decided to go ballistic, and I now killed it. So if everybody wants to know, I
gave you the perfect opportunity to tell everybody that aliens were coming.
Oh, dang it! I didn't tee that one up right. You teed it up right, and I just blew it. They know that I'm telling the truth, and this is the last you'll hear from me. And
do you have tinfoil? Do you have tinfoil?
I have not come prepared. Aliens now are classy. They'll go with a biodegradable plastic.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll also work. They're saving the Earth, or at least we're
there. You go.
Supposed to.
There you go.
So, yeah, I think these these structures, and I wanted to bring Nazca into it in reference to the idea of a portal, the idea of an energy center like Stonehenge, because these other henges and these other circles, we need to, as Westerners, and in our stories that we've been telling ourselves from King Arthur on, and the Druids and the mystical, everything that's all Western worldy, we need to pay close attention to henges around the world, including the ones that are in, again, Eastern Europe, the stuff that's being found, like those nanotechnology pieces that were found in the 90s in Eastern Siberia, where you have gold machined nanostructures that haven't been studied since the professor who was looking at them died. It's in the book, but it's a known subject where you have these lines, the Nazca lines specifically, again, where they are long lines. Forget about the shapes and the structures. That's like graffiti. That's graffiti on top of a mother circuit board. It's like somebody spray painted on your computer circuit board, but they gouged it in. And what you have is, when you take away the monkeys and the shapes and the spirals and everything's a special sacred thing. Everything is a ritual. Nothing was practical. When we look at paleoanthropological research, I love everything's a fertility goddess. Nothing was functional and practical. It was all just there for, the Great Pyramids are not an energy structure, or Menkaure. They're just tombs, and we can all go there. But the Nazca lines are not alone. There's other lines in Bolivia. There's lines in Jordan. There's lines all over the earth. But the key thing about these lines is that some of them are 25 kilometers long. And then what happened? Were they terraformed over with a post-flood culture where they washed away in a flood? Why are there these lines that show traces of arsenic, plumbing for drainage issues? Why maintain these unless they have electromagnetic properties, which Eric von Daniken, when I got a chance to meet with him and talk to him about this a couple of years ago, they did some experimentation with electromagnetic and current work with the Nazca lines. So are we looking at we're looking at, if you can engineer soil for growing and filtering air, and you can work with cymatic, polygonal, and frequency and wave technology, is it really that far out for an ancient high technology society to say, we're just going to have not only terra preta be electromagnetic and move communications? Why not just do earth circuits? And here's the indications for it. And there are locations where they seem to be on, there are structures like Stonehenge that seem to be on these energy lines. But the idea that it was a mystical or an unplanned or an untangible technology that goes into this mystical realm, I think that's a very beautiful post-flood way for us at 7 to 15% consciousness to go, yeah, that makes sense. Not if you follow with evolution and say, okay, well, we only get something through a forced adaptation if we have 100% brain capacity, and we were all had synesthesia and could sense, touch, and feel every sound, smell, conversation, and dialogue, that we could actually communicate. Part of that lost ancient technology isn't just in the soil and the things we've been touching on. It's in our genetic and our abilities to communicate to each other directly. What's that? Why do we have a third eye? Really, it's just this thing that we painted in the middle of our head. It's a dot, a ritualistic dot that we place. Or did we have a pineal gland that, with the ocular nerve endings in it, were we once fully conscious? Were we able to communicate directly with another human being? And with synesthesia, there's different versions. There's chromesthesia. There's a way where you can see colors and you could perceive, you could see, there's different ways you could smell something and see a number. There's distance. There's, imagine being an ancient high technology civil engineer, and you could cut the polygonal cymatic construction by listening to your favorite music, because every musical note you heard showed you a shape that you had to cut for the very next portion of stone that you had to use. And different abilities like synesthesia, which again, it affects all five senses. Modern science says that 20% of us have these abilities, but some people have an instant once, where maybe they experienced one sensation. There are different abilities. Some people with this, they have one format of it. They can, every time if you say the word yellow, they might see or they add two numbers together and they see a color, or they smell something but hear music, or vice versa. They hear music and see colors, or dimensional, like you could say one form of it, you could say 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and literally in the air, not in their mind, but in front of their face, they would see numbers that would start farther away and come closer. And we chalk this and other genetic abilities, or the idea that we've lived past lives, or genetic, we have these regressions, and the idea that our genetic material itself could possibly be a storage for our past as an entire race, that we have the ability to not just remember or store past events or capabilities, but that we have this consciousness that we're unaware of now because we're basically in safe mode. We don't, if evolution as a theory is correct, we don't end up at 7 to 14% consciousness unless at some point we forced our brains, or we designed or developed our brains to be what they are now, which even the best neurosurgeons in the world, I have some experience with this, they hold up their pinky and they say, this is about, just for the point, they've literally held up their pinky and gone, this is what we know about the human brain right now. And that's why looking at synesthesia and past life regressions, for instance, or those the idea of a common human consciousness, these are not some out there ideas that are to be adapted or to be chalked up to mystical ideas lightly. These are windows into abilities, I think, that people like Wim Hof, the Iceman, who holds 26 world records, who has been proven to consciously control his immune system, who I had the opportunity to meet when he came to America, and people like Stig Severinsen, also another Netherlands guy that's broken a number of records, been on many TED Talks and Discovery Channel as a superhuman, who held his breath for 22 minutes comfortably on one breath, because the breathing techniques are not there to astound, but the idea that every medical textbook says you cannot consciously control your immune system, your inflammatory response. Yet Wim Hof has trained thousands of people to do it. I'm able to do it. I've been practicing for 4 years. And it's about these connections that we're rebooting, that we're re-remembering, that we're getting close again to realizing that we're part of a global community of not just, right? It's not just this one element of our past being in our past. We're living fossils. We're living representations of, we're not just, it's not to be depressing or to say, oh, well, we're just not what we used to be, or things were better when, or it's the complexity of what we're finding technologically in the ground in union with practices that we're rediscovering and remembering, show that we are, again, we're not the result of evolutionary losers or by accident. It seems to be, like many portions of the planet, a level of design and intent. And I don't mean given to us or provided for us. I mean a level of an intent and design that, because of multiple wars or disasters or a surviving group of highly advanced humans not sharing, we are now, as a group, collectively picking up enough pieces and able, through YouTube and a lot of other things, communicate that we are connecting enough of the dots back together that it's not just strange, it's beautiful and wonderful that we might be able to stave off disease and actually tune ourselves and actually connect back, not in some just a untangible spiritual way, but that we actually did design and can communicate and connect with the planet itself, because we once were that. And these pieces, each piece is coming together to show us that we might have been that together. And at some point it fell and broke, and now there's a disconnect.
Right. We only got about 4 minutes here before we got to go to break. And Cable Guy Matt is asking if you have researched anything to do with Puma Pumka.
Yeah. Here we are with, yet again, I mentioned geopolymers just for a hot second. Joseph Davidovitz, the father of geopolymers, so that whole area, and I know it's a super popular thing for a number of alternative researchers, this whole area, it's impossible to not be fascinated with it, because you have polygonal cymatic construction, you have andesite and basalt, you have blocks of quartzites, you have stones that no Incan, Mayan, Toltec, Olmec, whatever you want to point out in South America, Latin America, Central America, as far south as, Clovis people, whoever you want to chalk it up to, that we are identifying through modern, standard academia. These people did not build polygonal cymatic constructions, and again, highly engineered advanced super soils, and then put little pebbles and rocks to finish off their buildings on top of polygonal constructions that, mind you, most of those stones were taken from, some of them they've identified the quarry, some of them they're still not sure. And no matter what, to get them up and down and moved and where they put them, it's ridiculous. The stories that you would have to rely on for Victorian and some many to say that this was, technology that was produced in the last 500 or 800 or 1,000 or 1,500 years is silly. And Dr. Joseph Davidovitz, the father of geopolymers, the accreditations and who this person is and what he's done. I mean, we wouldn't have modern concrete and buildings and what geopolymers do and what they're in, from our roads to our constructions and the complexities of them. He's managed to, he wrote a whole book about geopolymers, which were then researched by local Egyptologists and some Yale, and so there was about 4 other professors, completely independent. There's geopolymer patching on the Great Pyramid, which means, was it that his theory originally was that maybe the Great Pyramid was poured, and really what it looks like is, if you're running machines that run for tens of thousands of years, every now and then, depending on a natural disaster or a weaponization or a hit or a war, perhaps it was geopolymer patched in certain areas and then repaired. And in Pumapunku and Tiwanaku and these other areas where they're finding blocks where they're saying, well, this block looks like it was poured. And his point is that this appears to be a geopolymer. That may or may not be true. And based on carbon dating, to our understanding, they're saying, well, this was a geopolymer and this block was poured 15 or 1700 years ago. And here's our papers on it. And they've done some serious work on it. And these people produce geopolymers. I think these are super serious scientists that really know what they're doing. This is great. But then you have another side to it. These H blocks, some of the areas of what they're finding are fragments of what the superstructures were that are there. And here's the crazy thing. This whole area is in 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 feet of mud. And you'll see a researcher like Brian Forrester or all the guys from Ancient Aliens that as a separate group, not throwing Brian or anyone in one group or another, just that you have footage after footage of these, that whole area, that whole Latin America, that whole area from Lake Titicaca, all the famous sites from, things in the Ollantaytambo to Pumapunku,
right?
All of them, Machu Picchu.
I'm going to get you to hold on right there as we have Jared Murphy for another 30 minutes. His new book, It's Not Aliens, Worse, It's Us. More about ancient discoveries next on Spaced Out Radio.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there. The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the story you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at Kajans.com.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines Report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Let one go, Waylon. Jesus. I'd admit to it.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
We're bringing you something new to the documentary world. Beyond the Spectrum will take you on an historic tour of topics like no other: Sasquatch, UFOs, government secrecy, and more, keeping you on the edge of your seats through the eyes of legendary truth seekers like Steve Bassett, Richard Dolan, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and Jack Kasher. Head on over to Amazon Prime or Tubi TV and check us out. Please leave a comment for the filmmakers on their film's Amazon page.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
We are underway in the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates all across the United States. We will soon be adding Saga 960 in Mississauga, Ontario, as of Monday. Very, very proud of that. On the digital side, we're proud to broadcast on Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor and hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Let me just find it here. It is Cats and Jammer. Cats and Jammer is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We got a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. For the final time tonight, we introduce our guest. We have Jared Murphy. He's got a great book out called It's Not Aliens, Worse, It's Us, Discovering Our Lost History. And Jared, welcome back to the show. Really appreciate you taking the time for us tonight.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, and all your followers like Carrie Ann who are hanging on out in the chat rooms listening to you. And thank you so much to all the new people checking us out as well. For the first time, we always do appreciate new listeners around here. Jared, you know, we talk about a lot, and we hear it on television about ancient aliens, and if there has been any sort of working together with ancient societies to build the pyramids or Stonehenge or other places on this planet that just don't seem justifiably and humanly possible. Have you ever noticed or in your research been able to find out if there is any truth to that?
Yeah, I think the short answer is it's all post-flood mythologies. It's the Anunnaki. They reference that they came here from Nibiru. Or I guess as far as it being true, again, and you have to reference a post-flood mythology, whether it's the Egyptian or the Greek. And then, again, this really does partially go back to Eric von Daniken and Chariots of the Gods. And I mean, what a great course it sets us on to say, well, what if there's the theory of it being just that, something crashed and here's an ancient piece of high technology and we must have had some assistance. And it never starts out with, well, hold on, we have lots of ancient cities and coastlines that are gone, but it's pretty clear that we've been here and the weathering on this cymatic polygonal construction shows to be tens of thousands of years old. And could we have easily launched a ship or mini ships or satellites? And right now there's dead or orbiting satellites at altitudes that are not ones we put satellites at. And are they actually ancient? And are the people that we say were visitors? It all goes back to that paradigm shift, because it was impossible to believe that we are not as advanced as we are now, that this is it. We are the furthest along that we've ever been, but genetically, the soil, what we're finding in the structures, Pumapunku, geopolymers, ancient geopolymers that are like Teflon and they're underwater and they don't collect barnacles in the Mediterranean Bay, and we don't know how to make it, and it's not ancient Roman. I mean, we have too much to look at and say, again, it's the easy jump. It literally, it's easy to get your brain around it and go, well, aliens helped us. It's such an easy thing it then makes sense, because what we're finding does not add up to, well, people in loincloths did not do that. No, they didn't. But then the idea that turns it turned my stomach. It's like butterflies. It's to say, oh my God, we are actually the remnants we have rebuilt from a truly highly advanced society. These people live differently, they connected differently, and what we have left are the stories and legends and myths, the slivers of truths, and we're templating our beliefs off of these post-flood mythologies, whether it's a religion or just a theoretical touchback to what are our origins, because it's hard to let go of you, me, everything that we've grown up with, the legends and stories and the interpretations and the fun we've had with that through movies and music and these paradigms, where if you drop them all and you just look at the facts on the ground, not the theories, don't make the theories fit the facts, look at the facts, and they show highly advanced things that we cannot do. And when you break down each of these pieces, like the H blocks at Pumapunku that we touched on before the break, which there's only 6, but it's because ancient peoples quarried the site and they took many of the things, but yet there's layers of mud and we've never excavated it. Why is it not excavated, unless you want to jump into modern conspiracies and say, well, we're not looking at it because, well, it's going to tell a different story. And that story is not that aliens helped us. It's, again, in 1,000 years, if you dig up Chernobyl or you dig up the Apple headquarters, what are you going to find? And what are you going to say? What's the story you're going to tell about it? You can tell any story you want. You can talk all about the grand last 1,000 years of what it was used for, but that's not what it was used for from 1,000 years and further back. The H blocks at Pumapunku are a great example. There were some theories from an ancient alien standpoint that, well, one of the things they point out about the H blocks, they look like H's, but that they slide and connect together. But as Brian Forrester pointed out, they're not identical. Each H block is different, but they look cast or machined. And Christopher Dunn the engineer. He's written about this and studied there also. And there's weird magnetic properties, like they almost lock together like magnets, but they were different in size. But that might be because each block is from a different portion of a different part of the building. And did aliens have to help us build a building, or is it just a building? And because we don't know how to, our minds go from trying to comprehend what we're looking at genetically. Chicken before an egg. You literally can't have a chicken before an egg. You have to engineer a society that can control or create the Paracas people with elongated skulls and manipulate the human body. They certainly can, like Kurzweil's The Singularity is Near. We can manipulate genes. We're on track to do that. We've been doing it since 2008. Nanotechnology, cloning, but more specifically, customizing anything to have a purpose or a job, and to change what humans look like, to shift from saying this giant, massive ancient structure in society had help from abroad, to simply getting your head around and comprehend that we are not as advanced as we were. We're operating at 7 to 15% brain capacity, yet we have this massive, the one-time evolution gifts human beings with an extra big brain, or we already forced the adaptation or created the adaptation deep, deep, deep in our past, and we have now fallen. And you look back at what we're looking at then, at these technologies and these in-ground evidences and below-ground evidences, and you either have to say, to make yourself calm down a little, well, aliens helped us, versus, well, the only other thing that could have happened is somehow we knew how to work with obsidian and not break it and make it into finely structured things. Or at Saqqara in Egypt, everyone talks about, one of the things people point out is we found 40,000 vases in Saqqara in the Step Pyramid. The thing they don't point out is that these vases are machined. They'll point out that they're machined, but rarely does someone stay engaged enough in vases where they get to the part where they tell you that this is some of the hardest and some of the most fragile stones with crystal structures in them, where if one blade was to lathe the vase, which they're lathed, okay, so they're machined so well that they're perfect on the outside and the inside, and whatever blade cut them out of a solid block, if they had done one little hook on one little crystal at one little level, it would have shattered it. And some of these vases are so thin, they're translucent. They're intentionally translucent. Some of the hardest and most delicate stones on earth, cut to perfection to be translucent for funsies. This is a really highly advanced society, and we're rediscovering it as we're going. And it has been so easy for us to go from, I think it's been hard for us to go, wow, I just can't fathom that we blew it all up or that we lost it. That's a hard one to get around. There's a lot of different layers to this, and I think it's going to all take us some time as citizen scientists, as experimenters. I think all of us need to put our eyes on what we see in our deep genetic memory. Everyone will have a different memory of, no matter what it is and no matter what your interest level is, just looking at the things that are found and asking and helping archaeologists get funded so that Tiwanaku, or that Pumapunku and these places that are sitting in 60 feet of mud can have the money to dig. And instead of trying to stick with finding evidence and then throwing out anything that doesn't fit with the theory, throwing out facts and putting vases together for 30 years because they don't actually want to excavate ancient Disney World. They're too busy at the ticket counter putting together ripped up tickets at the ticket counter. Meanwhile, we're LiDARing 40,000 buildings and pyramids throughout Guatemala in just 800 square miles. And that's a fraction of what we're finding as we're, i.e. deforesting the natural untouched rainforest, and we're finding megalithic structures and cities and these assumptions we're making with like Göbekli Tepe. With only 5% dug up, we're making massive assumptions. We're templating the sites to our current theories rather than letting the facts speak. And that's why we jump to aliens. And more importantly, people are seeing aliens. This is the part that we're not actually discussing, is that there are too many over the last 80 years from the battle over Los Angeles. I mean, we could go on, we could hit up the alien crowd, and we can go with eyewitness accounts. And no one's going to take away from these incredibly reasonable human beings who have truly seen. Yeah, there's a whole segment. Shout out to Olav and Phillips, my publisher, and Anomalies and Paranoia magazine. There is definitely military technology. There are definitely governments experimenting with anti-gravity. Yes, there's a portion of the UFOs we are seeing that are military, but then there's a whole bunch of others that are not explainable in any capacity by our modern military, or even if they're 100 years ahead, they're not explainable. The beings, the people that are seeing what they're seeing, the assumption is, well, they don't look like me, so they're alien. Wait, again, think nose job, but think genetic nose job. Changing gene structures, interdimensional space traveling, nanoparticle controlling human beings can change how they look. They may or may not, based on Ray Kurzweil's book, The Singularity is Near, choose to have a body even. There's a good chance that we might be able to exist in a non-organic, diamondoid, crystalloid, basically a non-bio cellular structure. And that means that when you're looking at and projecting that, well, this flying saucer, little white gray guy, well, he's not from around here. Well, if you're traveling interdimensionally, maybe if you want to see the upright displays and process traveling at 0-point turns at multi-dimensional speeds, perhaps being small, white, and gray with giant eyes with skin that's translucent that can see and take in data, and you can process it at the same time or as collective as a group, there's more bioengineering in there that makes that the way you need to look or appear for the travels and adventures and the things you're doing as a human. And so that's why we have to stop, look at what the facts are showing us, that a highly advanced group of humans once lived here or still do. And some of them, here's the last part of this, it's a cruise ship, this ancient high-tech society, and there's only one cruise ship left, and that cruise ship crashes. The guy who bartends makes it, but the guy who made all the booze, no one knows how to make booze anymore. The guy who can program a laptop or a phone, an Android or a modern smartphone, he makes it, but the guy who programs the navigation system doesn't. The guy who who can machine tools, he lives, but the guy who actually knows how to build a foundry, he doesn't. So you have a highly advanced group of humans that may or may not have been in hiding through multiple disasters or one big one, come out of hiding or come into a world where they have to recollect technologies throughout the world or throughout this disaster or over maybe multiple generations, and they come out. And the dynastic Egyptians, the Greeks, the Incas, the Mayans, the Toltecs, the people in Indonesia, ancient peoples that we identify as ancient cultures, are adapted and squatting, sitting, rebuilding, reimagining these ancient structures that they've reoccupied. And the idea that at one point there was a cohesive ancient society that got their asses handed in one way or the other, and that they cohesively left and didn't have conflict. There are things in our histories, which maybe we don't have time for right now, that like the battle over Nuremberg, that it was the lithograph from the 1500s of these stars and shapes and things shooting at each other in the sky that was witnessed by people who lived in Nuremberg, Germany in 1517-ish. Everybody can correct me on the date, but the point is that is it possible that there's a group that it was humans all along that made it, that some of them did not get along with each other, and some of them said, screw it, we couldn't make it work, like the Paracas, and said, we're the world's first Quakers. We're moving to the beach. We're going to be fishermen. We're really good with textiles. We're not picking up the old ways. Screw it, we're going to live it out and live on the beach, and we're now the Paracas, and we're going to live here with our elongated skulls and call it a day. We left Crimea, and that's how our story is going to end. So we have to be very leery of taking any post-flood theory based on our modern theories, based on these post-flood stories, and say, wow, you know what, there's something solid there, and I'm going to template my view of each of these sites. When you're looking at an ancient high-tech cruise ship and you're saying that, well, it's not that. Aliens helped us just move the girder, but I'm not going to call it a girder. I'm just going to call it a henge and a standing stone. I'm not going to call it a super ancient weathered cymatic polygonal stone that got stacked in a row because somebody did that 5,000 years ago after finding a pile of well-cut, piled-up building, and they repurposed it. I'm going to call it a standing stone, and I'm going to call this a henge because there's no more wood, there's no more plastic, there's no more stone. And, well, isn't that funny about these genetic anomalies? But let's not have a full genetic map of the human race or a full paleoanthropological record. Let's just jump to a lot of conclusions and dust our hands and say we got it figured out. And this is the adventure. This is the fun of it. Unfortunately, we have enough on the ground to know that this highly advanced ancient society did exist, but who survived? That's another question.
We've got about 3 minutes here with you tonight, and this is a show that has flown on by, and I really appreciate it. How does this affect our future, where we go from here?
Oh, yeah, that's a great one, because there's a lot to get your head around, and I've spent a lot of time on it. What do you do with our ancient relatives that don't want to talk to us, or that have been abducting people or showing up or accidentally being seen? Why don't they help? Why don't they really help? Are they really helping? Are they giving us little shoves? And what do we know for sure? Well, we know that we have I think as collectively as a race goes, we have a history of killing each other for our beliefs, and I think that has to stop, and not just to be we need to be collectively a human race that knows that we are all connected, quite literally, genetically, physically, and that this planet, that in safe mode, we deserve to know where not only we're from, but that we are sleeping genetically with technology that makes us each potentially superhuman, not indestructible, but able to control our inflammatory system like Wim Hof or Stig Severinsen, and we can do that, and that we can live younger and healthier and maybe connect on these higher levels, not just in a mystical way, but truly we actually likely were. So in studying this ancient high technology past and applying it in not just through healthy diet, but positive gene expression because of healthy diet and exercise and these adaptations that we're rediscovering like Wim. But then with this historical piece in the future, why would we be fighting over our post-flood beliefs, skirting around the religious issue? The issue is, it's not an issue. If you know where you're from, it doesn't need to change those beliefs, but at the same time, we need to look at the facts of where we are from to also apply now and be calm and know that we are a very strong and powerful species that isn't just a random accident, that we aren't just we don't have to stay in sleep mode. We don't, I mean literal safe mode, that we can reactivate and readapt and reconnect in a very realistic way to these technologies that are not just ones we hold in our hand, but they're literally in our brain and genes that allow us to communicate, connect, avoid disasters like earthquakes, and possibly have some pretty spectacular devices, which we haven't been able to get to.
Right. Jared, I want to say thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight, talking about your book, It's Not Aliens, Worse, It's Us, Discovering Our Lost History. What a pleasure to have you on here tonight, my friend. Thank you.
Oh, I appreciate it so much. I thank you and all your listeners, and I'm so glad it turned out to be such a great night. I really appreciate you having me on.
Fantastic. Everybody, stick around. We have the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Dave coming on up on Spaced Out Radio next. Stay tuned.
All right.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, Spaced Out Radio fans! It's John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from vans to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thor, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know little brother is watching.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month, and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Looking for something new to push your limits? Look Beyond the Spectrum, a new docuseries featuring some of the best researchers in the world when it comes to everything from UFOs, government cover-ups, and Bigfoot in the forest. Truth seekers like Steve Bassett, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Richard Dolan, as well as others all chip in to bring their knowledge to you. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon as well as Tubi TV. Tell us what you think on our Amazon page. Here. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate each and every one of you taking time out of your evening to spend it with us. We want to say hello to everybody across our terrestrial affiliates as well. Thank you so much for broadcasting us, because we have a lot of fun doing that. Absolutely. Hey, if you're interested in finding our archives, we have them free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and hanging out with Captain Shirk in the SOR Newswire. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, and sometimes downright awesome. Atlas. If you haven't heard of Atlas yet, be prepared. Because Atlas is a massive comet, 5 times the size of Jupiter, about half the size of our sun. It will appear brighter than Venus from Earth by the end of April. The exact size of the rocky, icy core of the strange comet isn't known, but is likely only a few miles across, but it has a much larger atmosphere. It's currently close to Mars' orbit, but is increasing speed as it makes its way towards the sun, and will make it its closest approach to Earth in April. When it gets towards the inner solar system, it will become one of the brightest objects in the night sky, and potentially the comet of a generation. Yeah, I may have to just go check this out. I gotta see this. It's so awesome. Since it was first discovered in December, the gaseous envelope surrounding the comet has ballooned in diameter to a staggering 447,387 miles. In contrast, the sun has a diameter of 865,370 miles. Jupiter's diameter is 86,881 miles, and Earth, well, we are a paltry 7,917 miles. It poses no danger to Earth, as even at its closest point, it will be more than 72 million miles away from our planet, but it will look beautifully bright. We should all be able to see this. Atlas has a tail about the same size as its atmosphere, according to Michael Jaeger from Austria, who captured images of the object. According to one report, it isn't unusual for a comet to grow so large, as they spew prodigious amounts of gas and dust into space. Comet 17P/Holmes partially exploded and for a while had an atmosphere even larger than the sun, according to reports. Now, the Great Comet of 1811 also had a sun-sized coma. Whether Comet Atlas will eventually rival those behemoths of the past remains to be seen. It was discovered by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System in Hawaii and takes its name from the initials of that system, which is Atlas. The last bright comet visible without a telescope in the northern hemisphere was Hale-Bopp back in 1997, making this a very rare event for astronomers. So remember, we all got to check this out. So let's all keep ourselves in touch with this, because I want to see it. I want you guys to see it. More importantly, I want my little guy to see it. So this is a good one. Make sure your kids get to see it too. Australia's retailers are putting limits on purchases of alcohol as hoarders turn their attention from toilet paper and other household essentials to drink amid a widespread shutdown to slow the spread of coronavirus. Supermarket giants Woolworths and Kohl's Group and others agreed this week to limit sales for each shopper after social distancing measures to keep people home resulted in spikes in drink purchases. The measures show how panicked buying that began with toilet paper and rice is making its way through the retail sector as people fret about product availability despite assurances from authorities that there is enough to go around. Uncertainty on the impact of supply following the closure of pubs, clubs, and restaurants last week caused some people to purchase differently, said Julie Ryan, CEO of the industry group Retail Drinks Australia, which recommended the measure. These temporary measures will ensure that all consumers can continue to get wasted and find their favorite drinks when they decide to make a purchase. In Australia, where government figures show 1 in 6 adult drinks more than the recommended daily maximum, pubs and bars were closed last week under a shutdown intended to keep people apart and slow the spread of an illness that has affected nearly 5,000 Australians and led to 21 deaths. That led to photos circulating on social media of Australians in liquor stores with trolleys piled high with drink, prompting warnings about heightened risk of alcohol-related violence and illness. Oh, the Aussies, they know how to party. They know how to party. Let us never forget that. A Pennsylvania pastor said yesterday he plans to organize an outdoor Woodstock-like service in protest of coronavirus stay-at-home orders and following the arrests of multiple pastors in the U.S. for allegedly violating such orders. Evangelist Jonathan Shuttlesworth says he will hold an outdoor Easter blowout service, even though Florida pastor Rodney Howard-Browne was arrested on Monday for holding service the day before, potentially placing attendees at risk for COVID-19. I'm going to announce it. We're going to hold an outdoor Easter blowout service, not online, a national gathering. You've come from all over like Woodstock, and we're going to gather and lift up for Jesus Christ, he said. I'm not ashamed that Dr. Rodney got arrested. I'm ashamed that when they wanted to arrest preachers for having church in an entire state, there was only one to come for. Megachurch pastor Howard Browne was arrested Monday, accused of violating quarantine orders during a public health emergency. and holding service at the river at Tampa Bay Church on Sunday. The gathering created a dangerous environment for the church members and the larger community, according to Hillsborough County Sheriff Chad Cronsider. Howard Brown reportedly held the gathering despite warnings by police. His reckless disregard for human life put hundreds of people in his congregation at risk and thousands of residents who may interact with them in this week, which could be dangerous, Chronister said. The church live streamed its morning main event service on its Facebook page, which showed congregants shoulder to shoulder while the band was playing, according to Tampa Bay Times. Shuttlesworth said Howard Brown's arrest came from simply having church, when in reality he was arrested on second-degree misdemeanor charges of unlawful assembly and violating quarantine orders during a public health emergency. Howard Brown posted $500 bail about 40 minutes after being booked at a local jail. His legal team, Liberty Counsel, argued there's more to the story. The sheriff in Hillsborough County will get a lesson on the Constitution and discriminatory application of the law. Matt Staver, Liberty Counsel founder and chairman, has said it's unclear if the two pastors are friends, although Shuttlesworth posted a GIF with caption, "You arrested my friend," on his Twitter on Tuesday. It's not certain if he was talking about Howard Brown, though. Oh, well. Speaking of televangelists, now this one happened a couple weeks ago, but I wanted to get this in here because Jim Bakker, oh yes, Jim Bakker, held up a bottle of blue and silver, gazing intently at the label as he questioned the woman sitting next to him. "The influenza that is now circling the globe," Bakker said on his February 12th broadcast, The Jim Bakker Show. "You're saying that silver solution would be effective?" His guest, the so-called natural health expert Cheryl Selman, falsely implied that the liquid would likely be effective. The coronavirus, impacting more than 120,000 people worldwide, does not yet have a known treatment or cure. Well, let's say it hasn't been tested on this strain of the coronavirus, but it has been tested on other strains of the coronavirus and has been able to eliminate it within 12 hours, Selman said. Totally eliminate it, kills it, deactivates it. Silver solution has been proven by the government that it has the ability to kill every pathogen it has ever been tested on, including SARS and HIV, she continued. 4-ounce bottles could be yours. A message on the screen said for just $80. Oh, selling a fake treatment, though, for COVID-19 violates state and federal law, so Missouri filed a lawsuit against Bakker and his production company to stop them from advertising or selling silver solution and related products as treatments for coronavirus. Bakker and Morningside Church Productions have violated Missouri law by falsely promising to consumers that silver solution can cure, eliminate, kill, or deactivate coronavirus and or boost elderly consumers' immune system and help keep them healthy, where there is, in fact, no vaccine, pill, potion, or any other product related to treat or cure coronavirus disease 2019. The Missouri Attorney General's office wrote in its application for temporary restraining order, Bakker and his company are based in that state. Now, Bakker, of course, gained fame in the 70s and 80s, hosted the PTL, a Christian television program he hosted with his then wife, Tammy Faye, who could cry on snap of fingers. Anyways, he stepped down from that after a sex scandal, then spent several years in jail after a jury found him guilty that he had defrauded his viewers of millions of dollars. Now, a New York man practicing social distancing from his home went above and beyond other suitors when he saw a pretty neighbor dancing on her rooftop. Jeremy Cohen, who lives in Brooklyn, flew a drone with his number written on a piece of paper to a quarantine cutie he spotted from his balcony and captured the moment in a video posted on TikTok. Posting the video on Twitter, Cohen said, "I can't believe this actually worked, and yes, this is a real story. I looked out my window and saw this girl dancing, perhaps to a TikTok song," the 28-year-old said in the video. The two made eye contact, smiled, and waved at each other. The video then cuts to Cohen quickly scribbling his number and taping it to his drone to make the move. He also said in the video that he got a text from the woman an hour later. "I thought she was really cute from far away," he says. "During this quarantine, I think everyone is fiending for social interaction. I was like, oh my God, a girl!" I haven't seen one for so long. The video has garnered nearly 5 million views since it was posted. Who cares about that? Though one news site has dubbed the movie Love in a Time of Coronavirus, a reference to Nobel Prize-winning author Gabriel Garcia Marquez's book, Love in the Time of Cholera, it's probably more accurate to call it flirting in the time of coronavirus. Now, residents of a Welsh town say a herd of more than 100 goats is taking advantage of the coronavirus lockdown by overrunning their neighbors and eating the plants. Locals say approximately 122 Kashmiri goats wandered away from their home in the Great Orme Country Park and ventured into city streets, which now have been low on human activity. Residents say the goats have been feasting on their hedges and other plants. A North South Wales police spokeswoman said authorities believe the goats will eventually leave town on their own and officers will not be responding to any non-emergency calls about animal trespassers. Those darn goats. They're ruining the gardens. What about all the perennials that are going to spout up? These goats are going to eat them. How dare they? Authorities in Texas, now this is a sad story, okay, and get your tissues ready. Authorities in Texas say a truck driver was not injured, thank goodness, when his vehicle caught fire on the interstate, but the flames destroyed his precious cargo. What was that cargo? His cargo was filled with toilet paper. Oh, they are going crazy in Texas right now. Yeah, the Texas Department of Transportation said the truck crashed about 4 a.m. and burst into flames on Interstate 20 near the I-45 interchange in southern Dallas County. The truck driver said he hit a bump, lost control of the vehicle, and struck a highway barrier, causing the truck to overturn. The driver and his dog were not injured. Firefighters were summoned to the scene to extinguish the flames, but officials said the truck's load of toilet paper burned extensively before they arrived. Cleanup operations were expected to last several hours. Oh, you'd know there are some butts crying in Texas tonight. And a group of Good Samaritans recorded their efforts to save a wild animal after it got into difficulty in thick snow. Mark Weir has been riding his snowmobile with friends in Newfoundland. The group had been watching a herd of moose walk along the edge of a pond when one suddenly dropped out of sight and deep into a pit. The footage shows the friends using shovels to dig a path for the animal before it managed to climb out safely. In the clips of the video, Mark plods through the snow towards the spruce tree where the deep hole was. And, yeah, he narrates behind the camera saying, we're going to go see the moose, see how it's doing. There's a hole, and there's a poor little guy has fallen down it. So I guess we're going to have to try and dig him out. Well, that's exactly what they did. And Mark points the camera down the pit. The moose maneuvers, does a little wiggle and jiggle, looking like a spry Sidney Crosby, dancing around the defense of the New York Rangers, and poof, he was out. That's a great clown, Marty. Great clown. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. Tell me about your contact with aliens. 1. She told me she was here legally. What? Goddess Michelle, it was epic. That's all you need to know. Oh my, sounds romantic. Desert Clam follows up. I bet they didn't call the next morning, though. God of Thunder. I saw this alien from Jendal once. And of course, he's talking about Ace Frehley playing for Kiss. The Star. Yeah. Him and the Star Child rocking on out. And I know Ace Frehley's not the Star Child, so don't hit me up. You said that? No, I didn't. Anyways, Kevin. I was going to sleep and saw these grayish-blue beings about 5 to 6 feet tall in sleep paralysis. Tried to scream, but couldn't. Partner was also asleep, paralyzed and blackout, woke up half off the bed. Sean, still waiting impatiently. Oh, you wait, Sean. You wait. Let's go over to Facebook. Joshua, they want to take over Earth. Colleen, Okay, I consider possessions a type of alien. We call them bowed beings of other worlds or dimensions. Others call them demons, but that's not what they are. So alien encounters, like people think, are not what we consider what's happening. Really, I'm just going to cut this off. See, this is where ufology and the paranormal gets into trouble, when people start making up their own little terminology for things. Yeah, I've seen aliens. I've seen possessions. I've seen that. All right, don't make it up. Just call it what it is. We don't need any more anagrams. Nikki, I remember as a small child, large bits and pieces, which were pretty nice and at times freaking incredibly cool. After that, true horror city. Robin, when I was a tween, I saw something that I didn't recognize in the bedroom late one night when I was fully awake. It was there for only a few seconds. I don't remember what the time after that happened. John, I have had several sightings of UFOs in my life, but have yet to have encountered aliens. Jim, to make a very long story short, I've had numerous surgery dreams, brain surgeries, back surgeries, being hit with lasers, dreams of greys and spiders working side by side, dreams of being inside their ships, always in dreams or waking channeling. Science Bob, hung out with Chris Bledsoe. The hitchhiker came home with me and did an apport of water pistol squirts until I woke up and realized what was happening. Agreed to work with him, and boom, my wife was healed from the disability she had after a stroke. Then I went back to Virginia Tech, and one of Bledsoe's big orange orms blinded me and then stood off the end of the runway of our airport and winked at me for 20 to 30 minutes. I'm awake now. Gil, I live with one. I swear he's from another planet. Steve, you already know my story. Yeah, he was abducted with his band while driving across Canada from gig to gig. Yeah, that's a good story. You can check our archives for that one. Steve Boucher, Boucher. Check that one on out. Gabe, I self-hypnotized myself. I witnessed my old bedroom in 1980 through the eyes of a third being. I was viewing myself being grabbed from my bed by two silver suit beings. It appears I was viewing myself through my bedroom wall. They grabbed me like a piece of meat. My memory switched to what appears to be surgery being performed on me. My mind was still traumatized from these events that I could not access those memories. Nikki, really? If you really want to know, call me. I don't have your number, Nikki. I don't have your number. But thank you to everybody who took part in today's Thought of the Day. We will do it all again on Facebook and Twitter. You got to check it on out. We do it during the day. And then we read them on the air, because we kind of love that stuff around here, and your participation is big on what we do. Big thanks to Captain Shirk for putting together the SOR Newswire. Fantastic stories tonight. Make sure you check them on out on our website, spacedoutradio.com. And, of course, to our guest, Jared Murphy. What a great night. It's not aliens. Worse, it's us. You can find his book on Amazon, on Google. Check it on out. Make sure you do, because that's good stuff. He was a great show. Remember, you can find all of our archives at youtube.com/spaced out radio. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god of self. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Special thanks to everybody listening in on the chat rooms, on Spreaker, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Facebook, the SOR Space Travelers Club on our website, and all the people on YouTube tonight. You are fantastic. Along with the snarkers and snarkettes who are at almost peak woo at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for sharing your night with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a great night, everybody. We're going to do it all again tomorrow. Come join us. We'll be here. Why don't you do me a favor? Tell a friend. Tell them how much fun we are. This is how we grow bigger and better every single night, all because of you. Have a good night. Take care.